Welcome back to a feature episode of Red Tinted Glasses. A special episode this week to fill the lack of Don's content during the international break. And this week we're joined by Johnny Bain. Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
Yep, Johnny's come on at the show with a good idea for a draft project that we would not come up with because we're not that clever. Johnny, would you like to explain it?
Yeah, so I saw this concept on YouTube with a different club, and I thought we could apply it to Aberdeen and in particular Derek McInnes players.
Unlike Seoul, however, we didn't have to pay for this draft project idea and do some sly backhanders. Johnny came to us with it instead. So, draft project, how does it work? Basic concept is myself and Callum will alternate by picking players that have played under Derek McInnes, but the rule is we can't pick the same player. Johnny, is that correct?
Yeah.
Right, so for example, picking Adam Rooney means if I was to do that, Callum, you would not be able to pick Adam Rooney. Both myself and Callum will set formations for our teams, which we'll state at the beginning. And Johnny is here to be an independent adjudicator. He has seen our first initial drafts of both our teams. However, I've not seen Callum's team, and Callum, you've not seen my team, have you?
No, I've not. There's been no funny business, so it's fine.
No, so this is going to be pure down to luck of the draw. We did a predetermined coin toss, so to speak, before coming live tonight. And Callum, you won the toss, so you'll be picking first. And what we'll do is we'll keep it kind of similar to fantasy, and we'll go keeper to striker. Johnny, does that seem fair to you?
Yeah, it sounds the best way to do it, yeah.
Cool. So, Callum, since you got the honours, over to you.
Okay, so I'm going to be going with 4-2-3-1. McInnes has used it most of the time, but not now, obviously. But my goalkeeper will be Joe Lewis. What about you, Glenn?
Well, I think that was the obvious pick for goalkeeper, wasn't it? I've adapted a 4-4-1-1 formation, but possibly, depending how the picks go, maybe adapting it to a 3-5-2 formation, you see. And obviously, since you...
A back five?
Yeah, wing backs, going with how McInnes normally lines up just now. With that in mind, I'll go Danny Ward as my goalkeeping choice. Johnny, is there anybody we've missed?
Okay, so looking at the options that we could have had, I think when McInnes first came in, we're looking at Jamie Langfield, and we all know he had his flaws, and I think it was an area that we needed to strengthen. Apart from that, we're not looking at very much. We're looking at Scott Brown. Danny Rogers with a few appearances. Freddie Woodman on loan for half a season.
Good penalty save at Kilmarnock in that shootout.
Yeah, he came in and did well for Joe Lewis when he was injured, but I think Lewis and Ward are the
standout two.
Obvious answers, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the goalkeepers covered. I suppose we'll move into defence. Won't do positional preference, go right to left. So I get first pick of the defenders. Kind of spoilt for choice across the back four. But I think I'm going to go with the captain, leader, legend, Russell Anderson for me in the centre of my defence.
I admittedly did have him in my first choice 11, but because I'm going with a right back and I've had a look and there's just no one else that we've had that's any decent playing right back, I'm going to take Shea Logan now because I don't think who else did I have? I had Matty Kennedy as one of my backup options for that, so we're not having that at all. And Joe Shaughnessy, so there we go. So with that in mind, then my next pick will be a centre-half, and since you've picked Anderson, I don't think I can not pick Andrew Considine. I just can't. It's got to be done. I've got to have him in there as one of the centre-halves.
Interesting. Considine actually didn't even make my team.
I'm done with you. I quit.
Yeah, he didn't actually make my team, but since you've taken my right back out of my team, I can't believe you haven't picked him. Friend of the show, Lord of the show, Tommy Hoban will come in alongside Russell Anderson for me. Okay, so with my fourth pick of the McInnes draft project, I'm going to fill in at left back. He probably didn't play there often for us, but I'm going to get him into my team. Graham Shinney.
Knew it.
Oh no, I had him in my midfield. That's annoying. But that does let me complete my defence quite happily. So I get the next 2 picks. So I've got Scott McKenna. I'll have 2 left-sided centre halves, which is a bit painful, but I'm doing that. And
It
I'm
was a
gonna
bit. I kind of was in two minds myself about Scott McKenna, but Tommy Hogan just edged it for me.
because you love the man. I
Yeah.
think my other left back. No, my other left back. My left back will be Max Lowe. I think he's been the best left back we've had. Yeah. What? You just picked Shinny for there.
Did you forget him, Glenn?
No, I had him, but I was going to play him out of position at right back. Callum, since you've cruelly taken my pick for right back, I know you'd have been out of position, but I'm actually going to go with Michael Hector at right back.
Ooh.
Wild shout.
I did think about him for right back at one point, but that's smart. He's a good player.
Okay, so that's the defences pick now. Johnny, why don't you run us through the teams so far? And was there any names we've maybe missed out?
Okay, so Callum so far is lined up with Lewis in goals, Logan, McKenna, Constine, and Lowe. And Glenn so far has Ward, Michael Hector playing right back, Anderson, Hoban, and Graham Shinney. Both 2 decent looking teams so far. I was having a look earlier at some of the defenders we've had. I think mention should be given to Mark Reynolds, who was particularly good for 2-3 seasons. Firstly, besides Russell Anson, maybe exposed a bit more when playing beside Ash Taylor.
Yeah, another name who it's actually quite bad that Ash Taylor made my squad list and Mark Reynolds didn't, because I just forgot about him in my second draft.
I think Ash Taylor was actually one of our best defenders last year, but I think with our squad this season, he would be getting exposed a bit more.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think he's just a bit of an unfair scapegoat. But, any other names, Johnny?
I think we've got Michael Devlin, one who's maybe unfortunate with injuries, but again was decent before he's been laid off recently, I suppose. And then finally, Paul Quinn, just for that goal against Celtic.
God, yeah.
Shouldn't be anywhere near the squad on ability, but just for that goal alone.
It was actually really bad. I even forgot about Devlin as well, actually.
Finally, one of the worst I've seen must be Alan Tate. The guy was appalling.
Who, of course, got a shout out on one of our previous episodes of the stories where he threw pita bread at Callum Stewart and Nando's. Right, so that's the defence is done, and Johnny's kindly given us a review of players that we've forgotten about, and maybe you've forgotten about as well, listening or watching at home. So on to midfield now, and I believe it's myself to go first. So this was actually probably the area of the pitch that I found hardest to pick into well, now that I've got the players I kind of want, I'm going to stick with a 4-4-2. So I'm going to go with my left winger first and snap up Johnny Hayes.
Oh, I hate you so much. I can't blame you for that, but I'm going to go with centre mid first, okay? And it's going to go Kenneth McLean, the main man. I love him so much, so I'm glad I've got him in. I'm glad you didn't go centre mid first, because he would have been gone probably. And I think since you've maybe gone Hayes, out of all the wingers we've had recently, I've got to snap up Niall McGinn when I've got the chance as well. So that's my 2. Kenny McLean, Niall McGinn. That's 2 mine players.
Okay, well, that's annoying. And Johnny will be the first to tell you that when I sent him my first draft team, he actually replied saying, "Where the hell's Kenny McLean?" So
Couldn't believe it.
Whoops.
I'm shocked.
So my turn, I've got 2 picks now because Calum's had his turn. Slightly problematic because my 4-4-2 worked with Niall McGinn on the other wing. I'm actually going to take Gary Mackay-Steven on the right wing then. I had him earmarked for another position, but this allows a change in formation, and I've got other options for that, for the one up behind the striker. And then I think my first centre mid person will have to be Lewis Ferguson. His performances so far this season, last season as well, can't not be in my team.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that. I'm annoyed about Kai Stevens. That was going to be my backup left winger. So I'm now down to third choice. And I don't know if Johnny will like this, but I'm going to shoehorn Ryan Christie in at left wing.
Oh
yeah,
no,
yeah, that's
Wow.
right.
that's awful.
I'm sorry. Especially when this goes out, we might hate him even more by that point, given the Scottish Cup.
Callum, I'm massively surprised you haven't managed to find a way to shoehorn Scott Wright into your team if you're shoehorning Ryan Christie in there.
I did think about that actually at one point, but I think maybe in a couple of years' time that would be the kind of thing that's happened. But I don't think he's done enough, maybe just yet. He's not performed enough just yet. But I'm very happy this season, and don't twist my words, all right?
Okay, so you've got a second pick then, is it?
Is it me again? Oh, it is, isn't it? Okay, so I've picked Christie, and I'm panicking now. I don't know who. I'm going to go with Madison in behind the striker. So I've got Christie and Madison. I'm happy about that. That's one thing.
No.
You don't seem too happy about that, Glenn. Are you okay?
My 4-1-1 is just out the window now.
Capitulation, is it?
Yeah, it's quite sad actually.
Well, what's
I
next?
might have to maybe have a tactical. I'm like McInnes here. I'm squandering when a plan goes together. I'm just going to hope we hold out for a 1-0 at this rate. So one more pick for midfield then. I was in kind of two minds about this one. I've written down here Ross McCrory, but I think at the death, I'm going to change my mind and go Barry Robson.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's a killer blow.
What?
Why
I'm going
shocked?
to go Barry Robson purely because I've got enough pace on that wing, and Robson can do a job sitting and gives that bit of fight into midfield that allowed then Lewis Ferguson to push on if he wanted, and we all know Lewis Ferguson does perform better when pushed a bit further forward. So yeah, sorry Ross, despite your performances so far this season, Barry Robson for me.
That means I get to pick Ross McCrory.
Oh shit, really?
Yes. I've still got a centre mid to go. And I was going to pick Barry Robson, and then Ryan Jack did come into my head, but I thought I just can't do that. Ryan Christie's bad enough as it is. So
yeah, we're trying to build the podcast, not ruin it in one episode here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So Ross McCrory, so now I've got in my midfield McCrory and McLean next to each other. So that's nice. McCrory will sit a bit quarterback, basically, McLean, with Madison ahead of them. Okay, admittedly, Christie shoehorned on the left, but McGinn outright. What that is, I'm enjoying that. I've been liking that too much, to be fair. Okay, so that's our midfields complete. Johnny, do you want to run through before we go into strikers if there's anyone we've missed?
So I was having a look at the midfielder list, and I think we've got to look at players currently in the squad, like Ryan Hedges. If this was maybe done in a year's time, he might have been pushing for more of a shout. If he keeps up his good form just now, I think maybe Matty Kennedy's another one. If he gets over his injuries, again, started the season very well. And I think even Connor McLennan has started to come onto a bit of a game. He's been a bit in and out the last couple of years. But I think other than that, we've not had very much, have we?
No one wanted to mention Willow Flood, give him a notable shout out.
I did have him in my notes, but I thought, I don't know if I'm just glorifying my memory of Willow Flood, to be honest.
Well, he scored a screamer against Hibs.
I remember that much. I remember he scored against Kilmarnock as well. That's about it.
Opening day of the season.
That's all I remember.
So I think the point about Willow Flood's very fair. I think we've also got players like Peter Pollitt, who in McInnes' first season was very good for midfield, and then kind of tailed off afterwards, but was that link up with Flood, Robson and Ryan Jack was very good in that League Cup winning team. But we'd like to mention him, do we? We've also got we're still not speaking about Graham Shinney in there because of him playing at fullback. We can't forget what he did in that midfield. Other than that, maybe Dylan McGeoch, but he's not going to get a look in the season ahead of Ferguson and McCrory, is he? And he's obviously
No,
got a big log injury.
I suppose, as we've discussed on the show many a time, he's a good backup to have, and I suppose Ojo's there as well. But the Belgian Pirlo, as you like to call him, Callum.
Yeah, I'm resigning that nickname now, I think.
Okay, so business end of the pitch. I believe I've got the first pick of the strikers before handing over to you, Callum. And I think when he was signed, at Budalad tweeted me saying, "Didn't know you'd signed for Aberdeen." So I think I'd be wrong for me not to pick Adam Rooney.
Oh, that was going to be my first choice for the striker as well.
I think for all the strikers that we've had under McInnes, he was similar to Joe Lewis in goals. He's got to be the first name that you go to in those positions, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And I was doing my research earlier, and he has like 0.001 goals per game better than Cosgrove. So he's done well there for statistical wise. Yeah, exactly. I should get Stato Grant on instead of me. So that means me with my striker as my last position. Only one player to pick. I don't think I've just mentioned him. We've picked Rooney. I don't think there's any other option really than Sam Cosgrove. I've got to do it. It's got to be done. So that leaves you with one more pick, Glenn.
Well, Callum, thanks very much. So feel under pressure here with the last pick, but it's not an out-and-out striker I'm going for, and I'm kind of torn between two names. And Johnny's actually touched on both of them in his kind of review of midfielders missed from the squads. And the two that I'm kind of in between is Peter Pollitt and Ryan Hedges. Now, initially for this position, I did earmark James Maddison to be in off the striker, but you stole him. When you stole Niall McGinn, I had GMS earmarked for that position. Obviously, I've dropped GMS back into right wing. But I think, as you know, Johnny said, Hedges only kind of come into a game this season. We saw glimpses last season, but for all the good memories that Peter Pollitt brought to us in that League Cup winning campaign, and an on-fire Peter Pollitt, he has got to be my pick in behind the striker. And also it does mean I've got that versatility of him swapping with GMS if he's proving ineffective in behind the striker. So that is my 4-4-1-1 formation, Pollitt in behind Rooney. So that concludes the first McInnes draft project, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and you never know, we might come back with a worst 11 featuring the teams from Craig Brown, Mark McGee. And what we plan to do is tweet both our teams out, and we'll run a poll and see who you think will come out on top in a match against each other. But Johnny, before we do kind of run through our teams again, what strikers could we have had?
I think when McInnes first came in, he had Scott Vernon. He was good in that team, but I think we did possibly need an upgrade. He was, of course, one of the players that scored that penalty in the League Cup final, so we can't have a bad word against him. Looking at Simon Church, only here for a few months, but did well. Scored an important goal against Celtic in Pittodrie. We've also got David Goodwilly, again, bit of an odd one. Was always in and out, wasn't he?
A player that I don't think probably achieved his full potential at Aberdeen, I think fair to say.
Yeah, and he's obviously never going to get ahead of Rooney, was he?
No.
I was going to ask you about, do you think Lawrence Shankland ever got a fair run at Aberdeen, or would you think it was right that we let him go?
I think he did get a fair chance, and I just don't think he was willing to take it. I know he's scored a few goals for Dundee United so far this season, but yeah, I think maybe for me personally, I file him under Declan McManus, players that did well at a lower level and just couldn't cut it at a higher level. Callum, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he admitted himself he's had some attitude problems, and I think, especially when he was at Aberdeen, he's sort of fixed that now. And made a good point in sort of Declan McManus sort of route, and maybe Bruce Anderson might be added to that list as well. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but
Johnny, do you want to just run through the teams, the completed 11s for both of us as well, please?
Okay, so now that we've got our two teams, I'll firstly run through CALUM'S. So he lines up with Lewis in goals, a back four of Logan, Mckenna, Considine and Lowe. With the midfield of McGinn, McCrory McLean, Christie, with Madison just playing off Cosgrove. And then for GLEN'S team, we've got Danny Ward, Michael Hector, Russell Anderson, Hoban, Shinnie, with a midfield of GMS, Ferguson, Robson, Hayes, and Pollock just playing off Rooney.
Some of the
Two strong
nostalgia.
teams.
Some of the nostalgia from those teams, mate. I'm gonna cry in a minute. Sublime.
Yeah, so Johnny, initially, that's two strong teams, and like Cam says, some players that bring back some nostalgic memories for the fans. Based on kind of just seeing those teams written down, because we'll say this is just going to be based on paper, what side would kind of take your preference? Who do you think would come out on top?
Okay, so I've had a look at both the teams, and I think first of all, you look at Joe Lewis and you think, just for his longevity at the club and what he's done for Aberdeen, now club captain, I think you've got to go for him. No, there's no problem with Danny Ward over 6 months, but just what Joe Lewis has done, only a handful of mistakes in his 5 years now, I think it is. And then moving on to the defence, I think despite Shea Logan maybe dropping off in the last couple of years, I think you've got to play a natural right back as opposed to Michael Hector decision. And I also think that, well, it's a difficult one because Max Lowe on the other side is a natural left back. Although
So is Shinnie at Inverness.
So is Shinnie, and we don't have him in our midfield, but what he brought in his time at Aberdeen was great leadership, and I think we've got to find a place for Graham Shinnie. So despite probably being out of position, you have to have a Graham Shinnie in your team. I think then looking at the centre defence, we've got Mckenna and Constantine over Anderson and Hoban. Both would be very solid, but I think Hoban is doing very well, but he's got his injury problems. But Anderson alongside him could have the effect what he did with Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
That too could be a good partnership. But then again, you look at somebody like Andy Constantine for what he's just done with the Scotland team as well. Over 500 appearances. I don't think you can leave out Andy Constantine. And Scott McKenna has got his big move down to England. We'll see if it works out for him, but he did very well when he came into the Aberdeen team. I think moving into midfield, I think Johnny Hayes would be controversially the best player in the McInnes era.
Bold shout.
I'd like to see the debate, but particularly in his first spell, I think on his day he was unbelievable, unplayable. And it's no wonder that he ended up going to Celtic and winning all those trophies with them. I think it's a bad move for them actually, releasing him, because I thought he could still do a job for Celtic. And then I think for what Niall McGinn's done, I don't know why he left in the first place to go over to Korea, because I think that wasn't a great career move for him. But I think it's a toss-up between him and GMS. But what McGinn's done for Aberdeen, him and Hayes on those wings for a couple of seasons were brilliant. And Christie, slightly out of position.
I know. I had to shoehorn him in. I couldn't think of anyone else because GMS had gone. Hayes had gone. Yeah, I know, but I had. Yeah, okay.
Although I say Scott Wright when I didn't even have Constantine in my first initial starting 11 or Kenny McLean, so I'm just going to be quiet again.
So you piped down.
But again, Ryan Christie, good player, but perhaps just with the players we've had out wide, maybe dismisses out. Okay then, so looking at Madison against Pollitt, further up the pitch, I think we all remember Madison's goal against Rangers and we'll always be grateful. But he was actually in and out of the team during his loan spell and kept out of the team by Kenny McLean. So despite what he's doing now and obviously in the Premier League, other than the goal, he was in and out of the team.
So you'd pick Pollitt basically, yeah.
I think for what Pollitt did in that one season, he was unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for those scenes at Tynecastle.
And the diving header against Rijeka as well.
Yeah.
Right, stop piling in the misery for me, guys. Jeez.
Yeah, no problem. So what about the battle between Cosgrove and Rooney, both deserving their places in the best 11s?
Yeah, I think if you're wanting an out-and-out poacher, Adam Rooney has to be the best striker we've had since the post-2000s, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
For someone you just want to be in the 6-yard box, scoring goals, and with the service of McGinn Hayes in his day, no wonder he scored so many.
Mm-hmm.
But I think looking at Cosgrove, I think McInnes in particular showed faith in him when he sold Adam Rooney to Salford. I think he finally realised it was Cosgrove's time to step up, and to be fair to him, last season he did. Just unfortunate with his injury at the start of the season, but I think he'll come good and possibly going to have a good season again.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he didn't go in the summer.
Yeah, and here's hoping, obviously, from an Aberdeen point of view, that he does. Just one quick final point, Johnny, before Callum asks you to pick which team you prefer. The centre midfields of both myself and Callum's team seem quite evenly matched. It'll be quite a key battleground, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a very good midfield. I think we've been quite lucky with our centre midfielders in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I think, however, when McLean left, McInnes tried to replace him with Stephen Gleeson and Chris Forrester. Now, I say we've been blessed with midfielders, but those two didn't particularly deliver for their own reasons. So I'd say I think McLean's got to be in there for what he's done, his presence, and I think they missed him particularly. It's not until someone leaves you sometimes miss them. I think we didn't really appreciate him fully when he was here, and I think Robson deserves an honourable mention. Perhaps got him maybe not his peak, but he still contributed enough from the bench and sporadically throughout the season. And I think you're then looking at Ferguson against McCrory. I think
just two young guys up and coming, and it'll be quite an even battle between themselves.
I think what Lewis Ferguson's doing just now is ridiculous for what he's doing at his age and what he's already managed to do. I think he's just going to continue into a great player, and I'm glad we've got him down on a long-term contract. And then Ross McCrory is one, I think, similar to Ferguson. And I think if we did this in maybe 18 months, 2 years, he might be in this team. But I think he maybe just misses out just now with Ferguson and McLean making up that midfield.
Yeah, I think we both sort of got a little bit of the best of both worlds, and then sort of with McCrory versus Robson, it was a bit sort of who else is left kind of thing, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
It was very poignant that you said you don't realise what you've got until it's gone, basically, with Kenny McLean. I found a bit emotional for a Friday night, but thank you very much, Johnny. He's given our thoughts on the teams. What team do you think would be winning if we went head-to-head? Who's winning it?
Okay, so looking at the teams, I probably have to say CALUM'S I think when I was looking at the team, the spine of this team, you're looking at Lewis, Mckenna, Considine, McCrory, McLean, Madison, Cosgrove. You've got a great defence built on a box-to-box midfielder, McLean who can play, Madison who's going to play off Cosgrove and create chances. I just think with the service of McGinn, Christie helping out as well, I think it's just slightly pips Glenn's team.
Well, that's Johnny's thoughts. I don't personally agree, obviously. But what we're excited to hear is your thoughts. If you agree with the selections that both myself and Callum have made for our respective teams, do you think people that we've not included deserve a place in the starting 11s? So if you're watching on YouTube, I hope you've subscribed first of all, but comment below with your opinions. And why not tweet us at RTG_podcast. Tweet us with your opinions. What we'll do is we'll post up the two teams. We'll run a poll for a few days, a few hours, whatever, to gain the most interest. And we'll see when we put the teams to the public whose team really wins, because I don't agree with Johnny's opinion. Callum, do you?
I obviously agree with Johnny's opinion, but whether the people agree, that's anything. That's another reason that I didn't put in Ryan Jacks. You put him in, then it was just automatically people are voting for the other team.
No,
so I didn't do that. Exactly. So I had to leave him out.
Well, we'll see. You know, you've shoehorned Ryan Christie in there, so you never know. Given when this podcast is going out, we could see if it's going to be a popular decision or not. But we hope you've enjoyed listening to our best 11s under Derek McInnes. And if you have enjoyed, why don't you tell us? And you never know, we might come back with a worst 11. And as we touched on earlier, that would be under the McInnes, Brown, and McGee era. Lots to choose from there. Anyway, thanks for listening. Until next time.